Picture this. The year is 200 BC. On the southern edge of the Mediterranean Sea stands a city unlike any other in the ancient world. Alexandria is not only one of the largest urban centres of its time, it is also the intellectual capital of an entire civilization. Founded just over a century earlier by Alexander the Great, the city has rapidly transformed under the rule of the Ptolemaic dynasty into a hub of commerce, science, and cultural exchange. From its carefully planned streets to its vast royal districts, Alexandria represents the ambitions of a new kind of empire, one that seeks not only wealth, but knowledge. In the Great Harbour, ships arrive daily from across 3 continents. Merchant vessels from Greece, Egypt, North Africa, and the Near East crowd the docks, their cargo holds filled with grain, papyrus, spices, and precious metals. Above them, all rises one of the most remarkable structures of the ancient world, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Standing on the island of Pharos, its towering flame guides sailors safely through the harbour entrance, visible from miles out at sea. Deeper inside the city lies an institution even more extraordinary. Within the royal quarter stands the legendary Library of Alexandria, where scholars from across the known world attempt something unprecedented to collect and preserve every piece of knowledge humanity has ever produced. Yet beneath this brilliance lies a complex and fragile society. Greeks, Egyptians, Jews, merchants, and scholars share the same streets, each bringing their own language, traditions, and loyalties. Using historical records and archaeological evidence, we've reconstructed what a single day in Alexandria may have looked like. And our story begins at sunrise as the Mediterranean light touches the harbour of the ancient city. The first light of morning spreads slowly across the Mediterranean Sea. Before the sun fully rises, the horizon glows with a pale band of gold, and the waters outside Alexandria begin to stir with movement. Dozens of ships lie anchored within the city's vast twin harbours, their masts forming a forest of dark silhouettes against the brightening sky. Some vessels arrived only hours earlier under the guidance of the great lighthouse on the island of Pharos. Even now, the tower's flame burns faintly in the morning air, its glow slowly fading as daylight strengthens over the harbour entrance. Along the stone quays of the eastern harbour, the day's work is already beginning. Dockworkers move across wooden gangplanks carrying amphorae filled with oil and wine. Sacks of grain from the Nile Valley are stacked beside crates of glass, papyrus rolls, and imported spices. Merchants walk the docks inspecting cargo that has travelled from distant ports across the Mediterranean and beyond. Closer to the water's edge, fishermen prepare smaller vessels for the morning's catch. Nets are checked and coiled carefully before the boats push away from the harbour wall and glide out toward deeper waters. Seabirds circle overhead, drawn by the scent of fish and refuse drifting near the docks. Across the harbour, the long stone causeway known as the Heptastadion stretches across the Weir, linking the mainland city to the island of Pharos. Even at this early hour, carts and pedestrians move steadily along its length, carrying goods toward warehouses and markets that will soon fill with traders. From above, the scale of Alexandria's port becomes clear. 2 immense harbours, protected by breakwaters and watched over by the lighthouse, funnel the commerce of 3 continents into a single city. By the time the sun clears the horizon, the busiest port in the ancient world is fully awake. From the harbour, the city rises in long, ordered lines of stone and sunlit streets. Alexandria is unlike the older cities of Egypt. Instead of winding alleys shaped by centuries of gradual growth, its layout follows a deliberate plan. Wide avenues stretch across the city in straight lines, intersecting at right angles in a carefully designed grid. Greek-style boulevards cut through residential quarters, marketplaces, and temples, creating a city built with imperial ambition from the very beginning. As the morning sun climbs higher, the streets begin to fill. Merchants push carts loaded with pottery and baskets of produce. Craftsmen open the wooden shutters of their workshops. The air carries the scent of baked bread, salt from the sea, and smoke rising from cooking fires. Yet the people moving through these streets come from very different worlds. At the top of the social order stand the Greek administrators and officials who govern the city. Descendants of the Macedonian soldiers who followed Alexander the Great, they dominate the political life of Alexandria and control its most powerful institutions. Beyond them live the native Egyptians, labourers, builders, dockworkers, and craftsmen whose work sustains the city's vast infrastructure. Their traditions stretch back thousands of years, long before the arrival of Greek rule. In another part of the city, one of the largest Jewish communities in the ancient world maintains its own neighbourhoods, schools, and places of worship. Here, scholars translate sacred texts into Greek, contributing to the intellectual life that defines Alexandria. Walk through the markets and the sound of many languages blends together: Greek, Egyptian, Hebrew, and the voices of traders arriving from distant lands. Above it all rises the royal quarter near the harbour, where palaces, government buildings, and scholarly institutions dominate the skyline. It is from here that the Ptolemaic dynasty, beginning with Ptolemy I Soter, one of Alexander's former generals, rules Egypt as both pharaoh and Hellenistic king. For now, this remarkable city holds together. Imperial authority, economic wealth, and cultural diversity coexist within its walls, a delicate balance that defines Alexandria at the height of its power. By mid-morning, Alexandria's markets are fully alive. Step into the commercial districts near the harbour, and the sound changes immediately. Traders call out prices across crowded streets. Wooden carts creak beneath heavy loads. The air carries the sharp scent of spices mixed with the salt of the nearby sea. This is where the wealth of the city moves. Merchants from across the known world gather here to exchange goods arriving through Alexandria's vast port. Ships from the Greek islands bring olive oil and fine pottery. Vessels from the African coast carry ivory and rare animal skins. From Arabia come spices and aromatic resins, while caravans arriving from the east deliver goods that have travelled even farther, sometimes as far as India. In the markets, these products pass through layers of negotiation, taxation, and redistribution. But one commodity dominates the harbour above all others: grain. The fertile floodplains of the Nile produce enormous harvests each year, and Alexandria serves as the primary export hub for this vital resource. Vast quantities of grain are stored in warehouses lining the docks, waiting to be loaded onto merchant ships bound for cities across the Mediterranean. Customs officials carefully record each shipment that enters or leaves the port. The Ptolemaic administration maintains strict control over trade, collecting taxes and regulating supply through a complex system of state oversight. Along the waterfront, shipbuilders repair hulls damaged by long voyages, while sailors prepare vessels for their next journeys across open water. Ropes are coiled, sails inspected, and cargo secured. From the harbour towers to the crowded marketplaces, the scale of this economic machine becomes clear. Alexandria is not simply a city of scholars and monuments. It is the financial heart of a powerful kingdom, a port where the trade networks of 3 continents converge, and where the prosperity of the entire Ptolemaic realm depends on the constant movement of ships through its harbours. By midday, the energy of Alexandria shifts away from the harbour and toward the royal quarter. Here, beyond the crowded markets and warehouses, stands one of the most remarkable institutions of the ancient world. Within a complex of grand halls and columned courtyards lies the Library of Alexandria, a place dedicated to the preservation and expansion of human knowledge. Inside its chambers, the atmosphere is quieter, but no less active. Scholars move between wooden tables stacked with papyrus scrolls. Many of these texts have travelled great distances to reach this city. Ships arriving in Alexandria are often required to surrender any books they carry. Royal scribes copy the texts carefully before the originals are stored in the library's growing collection. In adjoining rooms, teams of copyists work methodically. Reed pens scratch across fresh sheets of papyrus as manuscripts are reproduced and catalogued. Philosophy, mathematics, geography, medicine, and poetry, every field of knowledge is gathered here. Nearby stands the Mausoleum, a research institution supported directly by the Ptolemaic court. More than a library, it functions as an academic community where scholars live, study, and debate ideas under royal patronage. Within shaded colonnades, conversations unfold about the nature of the cosmos, principles of geometry, and the workings of the human body. Knowledge here is not merely preserved, it is actively expanded. Among the scholars working in Alexandria are figures whose discoveries will shape the future of science. One of them, Eratosthenes, has already used careful observation and geometry to estimate the circumference of the Earth with remarkable accuracy. In this city, intellectual ambition matches political power. Supported by royal funding and connected to trade networks that span 3 continents, the institutions of Alexandria attract thinkers from across the Mediterranean world. For a moment in history, this coastal city has become something extraordinary, the intellectual capital of the ancient world, where the pursuit of knowledge stands alongside commerce and empire as one of its defining forces. By early afternoon, the heat settles over the stone streets of Alexandria. Markets continue to operate, ships still move through the harbour, and the great institutions of the city carry on their work. Yet beneath this outward stability lies a carefully managed system of power. At the centre of that system stands the royal palace complex along the eastern harbour. From these halls, the Ptolemaic monarchy governs not only the city, but the entire kingdom of Egypt. The rulers of this dynasty present themselves in two traditions at once, as Greek kings descended from the companions of Alexander, and as pharaohs in the long line of Egyptian rulers stretching back thousands of years. Maintaining that balance requires constant control. Royal guards patrol the main boulevards near the government quarter. Armed soldiers stand watch at gates leading into administrative districts. Officials move between offices carrying tablets that record taxes, shipments of grain, and the movement of goods through the harbour. Much of the kingdom's wealth passes through Alexandria, and the state keeps careful track of it. But the city itself is not unified. Greek elites dominate political authority, controlling the administration and many of the city's most powerful institutions. At the same time, the majority of Egypt's population remains Egyptian, with their own traditions, temples, and social structures. These different communities live side by side, yet tensions occasionally surface. In crowded districts, disagreements can erupt between groups competing for economic opportunity or political influence. Religious institutions also carry weight in these struggles, as temples and priesthoods maintain their own authority within the city. For the Ptolemaic rulers, Alexandria is both a symbol of power and a place that must be carefully managed. Its harbour controls the grain supply that feeds cities across the Mediterranean. Its scholars shape the intellectual reputation of the kingdom, and its population, and diverse, ambitious, and sometimes divided, holds the potential for unrest if that delicate balance ever begins to shift. As evening approaches, the pace of Alexandria begins to change. The intense activity of the markets gradually slows as merchants close their stalls and gather the day's earnings. Along the wide boulevards, crowds thin as workers and traders begin the walk back toward their homes in districts scattered across the city. Near the harbour, the last cargo of the day is secured inside long rows of warehouses. Sailors tie their vessels to stone docks and step onto land after weeks at sea. The sound of hammering and shouting that filled the port throughout the morning fades into a quieter rhythm. But the city does not fall silent. Public squares and open courtyards begin to fill with people seeking the cooler air of evening. Street performers draw small crowds with music and storytelling. Travelling musicians play flutes and lyres beneath the fading light while listeners gather on stone steps and along colonnaded walkways. Across the neighbourhoods, families prepare their evening meals. Smoke rises from cooking fires as bread, fish and vegetables are shared among households that have spent the day working in markets, workshops and offices. As darkness slowly settles over the city, oil lamps appear in windows and along narrow streets. Their small flickering lights reflect against white stone walls and illuminate the steady movement of pedestrians heading through the evening air. In quieter courtyards, groups of scholars continue the discussions that began earlier in the day. Philosophy, mathematics and astronomy remain topics of conversation long after the library halls have closed. Closer to the harbour, a different kind of gathering unfolds. Taverns welcome sailors and travellers who fill the rooms with conversation, laughter, and the sound of music drifting out into the streets. Across Alexandria, the diversity of the city becomes especially visible after sunset. Greek elites, Egyptian craftsmen, Jewish scholars, foreign merchants, and wandering sailors all share the same evening spaces. Luxury and simplicity exist side by side, woven together in the everyday life of one of the largest and most cosmopolitan cities of the ancient world. Night descends over Alexandria, and the city's silhouette softens against the darkening Mediterranean. The sun has disappeared, leaving only the faint glow of the horizon as a reminder of day. Along the harbour, torches flare to life, their flames reflected in the rippling waters, casting long, flickering shadows across the stone docks. You notice guards patrolling the waterfront, their footsteps echoing against the quays as they keep watch over warehouses filled with the day's arrivals. The scent quays as they keep watch over the warehouses filled with the day's arrivals. The scent of salt water and damp timber hangs in the air, mingling with the faint smoke from the torches. Ships sway gently at their moorings, masts creaking in the soft night breeze, while the lighthouse of Alexandria continues its steadfast vigil, guiding vessels safely through the darkness with its distant, unwavering fire. In quieter corners of the city, the library remains a hub of light and thought. Scholars hunched over scrolls continue to work, copying manuscripts, debating astronomical observations, and recording discoveries. The low rustle of parchment and the occasional whisper of a teacher carrying on a discussion punctuate the night, offering a reminder that Alexandria's intellectual life does not rest entirely with the setting sun. From the upper terraces of the city, the distant sound of waves lapping against stone docks reaches your ears, a constant rhythm beneath the torchlight. Street noises have faded, replaced by a calm but watchful stillness, a sense that the city itself is breathing, alive even in the quiet hours. Under the stars, Alexandria rests but never truly sleeps. its economic, political, and scholarly heart continues to beat, a powerful metropolis sustaining its pulse through the night, waiting to awaken once more with the first light of dawn. Alexandria's brilliance is visible not only in its harbours and boulevards, but in the very structures of power and knowledge that define it. The city thrives because it merges commerce, scholarship, and authority into a single vibrant organism. Ships from distant lands bring spices, papyrus, and ivory, while scrolls arrive from the far corners of the known world, feeding the libraries and academies where scholars debate, measure, and record. Yet this same diversity that fuels Alexandria's wealth and intellect also makes it delicate. Greeks, Egyptians, Jews, and traders from across the Mediterranean coexist within the city's streets, their languages and customs interwoven, but not always harmonious. The city's prosperity depends entirely on the Ptolemaic dynasty maintaining control, on the palace's influence over taxation, grain distribution, and security. A misstep, a political dispute, or unrest among communities could ripple outward, threatening the fragile balance that sustains this metropolis. The intellectual achievements here, Eratosthenes calculating the Earth's circumference, astronomers charting the stars, physicians documenting the human body, would resonate far beyond Alexandria, laying foundations for centuries of thought. But without stable governance, without the steady pulse of trade and the protection of the royal court, the city's greatness could be undone as easily as it was built. In Alexandria, every grain stored, every scroll copied, every law enforced represents a careful negotiation between ambition and fragility. It is a city whose power rests on the harmony of knowledge, commerce, and empire, a delicate equilibrium that defines its enduring legacy and history. Centuries after this day, Alexandria's fate would be shaped as much by politics as by time itself. The Ptolemaic dynasty, which had maintained the delicate balance of power and knowledge, faced internal rivalries and disputes over succession. These struggles weakened the monarchy, leaving the city vulnerable to outside forces. When Rome expanded into Egypt, Alexandria became a prize of empire. The city's streets and harbours, once filled with the energy of trade and scholarship, were now under foreign administration. Its great library, a repository of knowledge from across the Mediterranean, would gradually diminish, scroll by scroll, through neglect, fire, and the shifting priorities of rulers who could not maintain its vast collection. The lighthouse, a beacon for centuries, would eventually suffer the damage of earthquakes and storms, its fire extinguished, yet its image enduring in the imagination of mariners for generations. Despite these transformations, Alexandria's legacy would persist. Its scholars had calculated, recorded, and theorized in ways that shaped mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. The city's integration of cultures and ideas created a template for future centers of learning. Though the physical monuments and institutions might fade, the influence of Alexandria continued to echo throughout the Mediterranean world, inspiring thinkers and civilizations long after the Ptolemies and their successors had vanished. Alexandria remained a testament to human ambition and intellect, a city where trade, knowledge, and power converged, leaving a mark on history that no empire or disaster could entirely erase. Alexandria, in its full grandeur, was a city like no other, a hub where merchants from Greece, Africa, Arabia, and beyond converged, its harbours teeming with goods that fueled empires. Its streets echoed with the voices of scholars, artisans, and labourers alike, while the legendary library and Mausion marked the city as the intellectual heart of the ancient world. Here, cultures intertwined, ideas flourished, and knowledge shaped the course of civilizations. So that was 24 hours in ancient Alexandria, a city of trade, of thought, and of human ambition, leaving a legacy that would ripple across centuries. Our mission continues to uncover the world's greatest cities, their streets, their lives, and their lasting influence. Subscribe to journey with us through history, and tell us in the comments which ancient city you would like to explore next. And as always, we'll see you in the past.